What's going on, Eagles Nation? How you doing, NFL world? What's going on, division rival Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. And today we got a live stream. We're going to talk a little bit about over, under fronts, kind of get into a little bit about what we've heard about Jonathan Gannon and this under front. I'm going to get into the origins of the under front, kind of what I've heard, what I know about the under front, and I'll do some film breakdown with you guys. We'll do a little bit here and there, guys, and we'll definitely jump in. So my co-host tonight is Philly Foothills. What's going on, Foothills?
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Thank you for having me on your channel, Steve. I appreciate it. And looking to learn some more about the defensive line fronts, like you said. And hopefully some of our viewers can learn some stuff along the way too.
Yeah. So I guess what we can do is just kind of start it off to bring everybody in. Is that I'm not going to make any assumptions that people do or don't know things. So we're just going to start off with the very basics, guys. We're going to talk about when you hear a guy like me get on the mic and I start talking about a 40 front or a 30 front, when he's talking about odd versus even fronts, like what does that even mean? So anytime you hear us refer to a 30 front, we're really talking about we're talking about a 3 lineman front. We're talking about a 34 normally, guys. Or if you're in a sub package, a 3-3-5s, so forth and so forth, right? When you hear us say 40 front, and we're normally talking about 4 down linemen, basically 43 base, 4-2-5 nickel. You guys get it. Even in odds, it's a little different. So I guess it just depends on your interpretation of things. But generally speaking, I like when someone says odd, I think they're talking about 3. I think they're talking about a 34, 3 down lineman. If they say even, I think they're talking about 4 down linemen. But there are some circumstances where you can bring safeties up, you can bring linebackers up, and that creates like a 52. You can bring an extra defensive lineman in, right, and create a 52, the old Bears defensive front, right? There were 72 fronts back in the day when the running game was king, so
wow.
Odd versus even, 34 versus the 43, 30 versus the 40 lines, all that terminology, guys. You'll hear it. What's up, Jalen? How you doing, buddy? So to start us off, when I think 3-4, okay, I'm just going to do a brushing over here, guys. When I think 3-4, generally speaking, I always considered most fronts Okie fronts. We call the Okie, O-K-I-E front, and a 30 front, okay? I think that's what most of us think of when we think of 34 defensive fronts. Guys, it's so easy to distinguish this. It's what you think. It's the generalized conception you have of what a 34 front is, okay? It's a nose guard or nose tackle, right? And then you have essentially 2 5 techniques on the field, right? So you got nose tackle, 2 5 techniques. They're all 3 of those guys are 2 gapping. Brings me to my next point, guys. Once again, guys, some of y'all, I know you know this. Just stick with me because we got some youngins, guys, that are in the audience. They may not know some of this stuff.
Exactly.
When I say a 2 gap, so in football, when you look at it from a defensive, standpoint, you have gaps. You have responsibilities, which are called gaps. Offensively, we call them holes, right? You have if you're going left side, so if you're going from your center to your left guard to your left tackle, outwards, then you're talking your 1 hole, your 3 hole, your 5 hole, your 7 hole. If you're going to the right side, you're talking about your 2 hole, your 4 hole, your 6 hole, your 8 hole, guys. So defensively, you have an A gap, a B gap, a C gap, and a D gap, okay? So just follow along. I'm going to throw up some stuff, guys, to kind of help us along here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to play around in my editor because I did bring up some notes for you guys just to kind of help you guys along with some of the concepts. Just so that way nobody's feeling like, okay, man, like they lost me right from the jump. I got no clue what they're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump to this. I'm going to bring up something on the screen to share with you guys that hopefully I can get to share. We were successful the last time. So let's see if I can't find it, guys. So
thanks everybody for joining into the live stream so far. We appreciate it. Everybody.
Yeah, guys, we appreciate y'all jumping in. We're gonna do all of our introductions and stuff here in a second, guys. So when I maximize it like this, can you see everything, Foothills?
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, if you go from the left side, you see I have the left tackle, I have the left guard, I have the center, I have the right guard, I have the right tackle, and I have the tight end. And across from them, you'll see there's these letters, A, B, C, D. Guys, that's the gap assignment. So in this particular situation, the weak side of the offense is to the left. Or put another way, guys, backside. Backside would be to the left, and then what we would call the close side or the strong side would be to your right where the tight end is, okay? So the center, on both sides of the center is the A gap. Now if you go out to your guards, from the outside shoulder of the guard to the inside shoulder of the tackle is your B gap, both on your right and your left side. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
And then from your outside shoulder of your tackles to, where potentially a tight end could be, that would be your C gap. Anything that would be outside of the tight end. So offensively, for my offensive players, guys, think sweeps, things like that. That's a D gap. That's a D gap responsibility. So when we talk about something like, sorry guys, let me pull this one down. So when we talk about something like gap responsibilities, and I say something like 2 gap, it means a player has not just an A gap, or sorry, they could just have an A gap, not just one gap, but they have to take on both gaps. So like if I'm a nose tackle and I'm in a 2 gap system, I got to control both sides of the A gap, both sides of the center. That's my responsibility, right? Let's say I'm a 3 technique. I might have to take the B and the C gap. You guys get what I'm saying? So in an Okie front, a 34 Okie front, you have 3 down linemen who are 2 gapping. That's just what it is, guys. That's what it means. It's what you think of when you think of a 34 front, guys. So some kind of like alterations to that. The most popular alteration I've seen recently came from the Rams last year. Stanley, the defensive coordinator that was with the Rams last year, who is now the head coach of the Chargers, I believe. He ran something called a 34 Eagle front. So 34 Eagle front is kind of interesting because it has that same nose tackle, right? So you saw the nose tackle, 0 tech or 1 shade kind of there, or 0 shade. And then you have 2 4 eyes, not 2 5s. All right, we're getting into the weeds when it comes to 4 eyes versus 5. Guys, it just means that he's to the inside shoulder of basically the tackle. So he's like kind of lined up between the guard and the tackle, but more so towards the inside shoulder of the tackle, okay? In this particular system and design, most of the time, guys, there are always like alterations to the stuff that can be run. But most of the time, your nose tackle and both of your 4-eye techniques are running a 1 gap, right? Well, then you have a 6 technique that's on the close side where the tight end is. He's going to 2 gap. And then you have a stand-up joker that's on the backside. He's going to 1 gap and kind of have the like outside containment responsibility for the run game. Okay, that's 30 fronts. All right, so now we got the 3-4 down, guys. So we're going to move into the 43. Okay, 43 guys. We already talked about a 4 down lineman. It's what we know mostly from Philadelphia, minus a couple of years with Chip Kelly. We've mostly been a 43 front. But generally speaking, when you run a 43 front, most teams play what's called an over technique out of base. So over technique. The best way I can explain an over technique is just to pay attention to your 3 technique. Your 3 tech, your defensive tackle guys, your 3 tech, the guy that's going to be kind of on the outside shoulder of the guard. If he is aligned to the strong side, the close side, right, where the tight end is, or where the defense designates the strong. So sometimes you don't have a tight end in line, so you have to designate. And I'm going to show an example of that in a second, guys. You have to designate where the strong side and where the weak side is. But generally speaking, if your 3 technique is to your strong side, and then your nose tackle, your 0 technique or your 0 shade is to the weak side, the cutoff, the backside, right? That's an over front. That means you're in an over front, guys. There is something called an over pro, and you have to pay attention. So in an over pro, the SAM is kind of outside the box. You're still like a 7-man box, but the SAM is out of the box. And then basically your mic will be what's called a 00. Fancy way of saying, guys, he's heads up over the center. He's not going to be on the line of scrimmage necessarily, but he's going to be like heads up over that center. Maybe a yard or 2, 3 yards, whatever, off of it, guys. That's an over front. Okay, that's what we're used to seeing, okay? Now, what we're hearing a lot of is the Eagles going into an underfront, a 43 underfront, okay? Let me explain that one, because that's where things get interesting. So Let me start with 43 underfront. Let me just ask you, how much experience do you have with this notion? I'm sorry, foothills.
With the, I'm not too familiar with the, with the terminology of of the under. You know, I've heard about the over before, but I'm not super clear on what you're about to talk about right now.
Yeah. So okay, and under. Guys, let me just start off with the history of where the under comes from, and you're going to understand a lot of why the Eagles are being rumored to run this particular situation. Guys, to begin with, I'm not going to monetize this video because they'll strike it down quicker than crap. I also have to be careful about when I run film. I got to make sure it's not excessive and it qualifies for fair use, okay? So I know there are going to be times you guys are going to want me to show a clip longer. I cannot do that and not get sued. I got to be careful, all right? But when it comes to an under front, so the easiest way to tell it is now your nose will be aligned to the strong side or the close side of the offensive formation. And now your 3 technique won't be on the strong side anymore or the close side. He's going to be on the back side or the weak side. So you're kind of flipping them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other indicators, and we're going to get into those. And I'm going to talk about personnel fits and why people are assuming we're going to run an under front, okay? But let's just begin with the origins, because I think the origins are really important of an under front, okay? So to begin with, the idea of a zero technique known by another name, and you've heard other Eagle analysts say it, guys. They've talked about it. It's called a tilted front. I know my guy Jalen Williams knows. He knows exactly what a tilted front means. He knows exactly where I'm going with this. It's when you take your nose tackle and you tilt him, okay? So he's at an angle across the face of the guard, kind of looking in on the center, right? As soon as that ball's hiked, he's going to win. He's there to win, to beat the center in the guard off the hike, okay? Generally speaking, this is an undersized, very fast defensive tackle, okay? Zero technique, nose tackle, all right? The origins of this all started with Mean Joe Green long before Gate. I shouldn't say long before, because it really wasn't that long before I was born, but before I was born, okay? From my understanding is that the legends of it all is that it happened sometime during the postseason of the 74 season. It was during the playoffs, and it was because Joe Green was getting frustrated with being basically double teamed and taken out of games. So they put him on a tilted front, allowed him to jump the center, and then he was just too fast for anyone to keep up with, guys. That was Bud Carson and Mean Joe Green who brought the tilted front. What you need to know is that there was a young coach that would coach underneath Bud Carson later on. Okay, that young coach he's very popular. Okay, and we all know him for a different thing, and it's Tony Dungy. Okay, Tony Dungy coached under that Pittsburgh Steelers team there. All right, and Tony Dungy came up with what would later become the Tampa 2, right? But he also brought that tilted nose to Tampa Bay. Stick with me.
Okay.
We're not done. Tampa Bay, cover two shell, tilted front, 43 under. Where does the 43 under come from? That mid-90s Tampa Bay defense. Comes from one man and one man only. You guys know him. I know him very well. Monty Kiffin. Monty Kiffin really brought this to Nebraska back in the 70s, okay? The under front. While he was at Nebraska, there was a young graduate assistant by the name of Pete Carroll who would come along and coach under Monty Kiffin, okay? To this day, the only head coaching gig Monty Kiffin has ever had was at North Carolina State University, NC State. That's why I know him so well. It was between the 80 and 82 season. Pause, I was not born yet, or relax, I should say. It's not really a pause moment. I was not born yet. I'm not quite that old, guys. But I do know, I know the legacy very well. Most people didn't know crap about him at NC State until he went to Tampa Bay and had a lot of success, guys. But later on, I had some guys I worked for that played for him, actually. They were players under his regime. So they knew him a little bit. They kind of caught the tail end of him as being a coach at NC State. He's the one who brought the under front. He eventually goes to Tampa Bay. So now you have the 43 under front with a tilted nose with a cover 2 shell. What do you think people are assuming the Eagles are going to do? What do you think, man? What do you think, Foothills?
I mean, they're going to run. I mean, they're going to try to keep a lot of the the action in front of them, right? They're not going to try to get beat over the top.
Kind of, yeah. Too deep's going to keep you from generally being able to give assistance and help when you can over there.
Mhm.
The thing is that it's going to be a little different. So we will definitely run some too deep safety stuff here. There's no doubt about it. I think we'll be a little bit heavier into quarters as opposed to cover two, but we'll see cover two. Like cover two will be much more prevalent in Philadelphia than it's been in years past. But I think we're going to see a lot of quarters coverage here. The other thing we're going to see is probably our base, what we call shell package, will probably mirror more of Pete Carroll, a little bit more cover three. That's what my anticipation is. Not that it's going to be mirror not like perfectly to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll runs a very specific version of the cover three. Okay. I think we're going to be a little bit more towards what we see, Minnesota and Indianapolis's defenses with the cover three, more so than what we see in Seattle. But yes, you're going to see that kind of stuff get mixed in. But there are some things, man, that really, really stand out when you look at the film, man, and you watch some stuff, guys. So I'm going to take you to a Pete Carroll game, and I want you guys to watch the clip, and I want you guys to tell me what you guys see in the comment section, all right? Philly Fresh, what's good, my guy?
Yo, Dad.
General. We got Jalen chiming in. Thank you, Jalen. Appreciate you, buddy. Guys, let me catch up to some of these comments. I'm going to run the film. I'm so sorry, guys. What's up, guys? I just looked up, and I noticed there's like a zillion comments. What's up, Hewlett Brown? Philly Fresh, what's good, my guy? Saying make sure y'all hit that thumbs up button. Thanks for clarifying the gap situation, weak and strong side. Yeah, man. You never know, man. We got some young guys sometimes.
Yeah, Nestor Robles said
General in the house.
He was asking, doesn't Pete Carroll run a 4.3 under?
Pete Carroll does run a 4.3 under.
Yeah. That's
what I'm going to get to, guys. I'm going to show you. I want you guys to just kind of watch what you're seeing and then tell me what it is you see, what you see on film. So, Nestor, yes, Pete Carroll runs. He's very much a 4.3 under guy. And I'm going to get into some of the similarities you'll see there. What's up, Market Spikes? All right, guys. So let me go ahead. Let me share the screen again. And then this time, let me make sure I'm set up here on Game Pass for you guys, that we were on the right thing. Sorry, guys. I got to refresh it because I let it sit too long, I guess.
It's all good. I know y'all talking D, but
yeah.
Just rather shoot. Yeah.
So the biggest key to me, when I looked, it's really paying attention to that Sam linebacker. And you have to identify where the Sam is, which this is why I love this first play of this game, guys, because it's a little bit of a Where's Waldo to find the Sam. So what I'm going to do first is, you know what? I'm going to go with the actual broadcast of that play, and then we'll go into the coach's film. And we'll break down what we're seeing. I don't have any sound on this one. I don't know why, but it's all good. Oops.
As long as we can see it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm just fast forwarding it to get to the actual play. All right. Let me go ahead and close that out. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Sorry, guys. It's a little difficult with it's a little easier to share stuff when you're doing it from the coach's film than it is from the broadcast, because the broadcast, you got to find the exact moments. So we're going to share screen. All right. We're going to go to the Seahawks game. All right. This is week 1 last year, guys. I'm going to maximize this. Hopefully you guys can see everything pretty good. All right. It may not play sound, guys, and I apologize. It's probably because I had my mic plugged in. All right. We see Matt Ryan's under center. All right. We can see that there's no inline tight ends, but we can see we're in a 2-back set. We got a fullback. We see the tight end comes over and chips. Pretty big play here. Pretty big run, right? That was not the greatest job of gap consignment, if I'm going to be nitpicky here, guys, to be quite honest. So now that you guys saw it like that, let me go ahead and I'm going to share it again. But this time I want to show you guys what it looks like from the coach's film, all right? So, all right, let me go to coach's film. All right, guys, here we go. So you back that out. I'm going to share the screen again, guys. Share screen, Chrome tabs. We want the Seahawks and Falcons. All right, guys, here we go. All right, so the first angle is going to be the wide angle. All right, you can see. Well, wait a minute. I think I put it on the wrong run. Hang on, it might help if I have the right play for you guys to watch. Sorry, I keep forgetting it skips ahead of play. All right, so let me go back. Come on, man. Hurry up. All right, guys, let's do this all over again. My bad.
I don't know if it's my internet, but I couldn't even see the first one. But
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be on my end.
All right, guys, so we're going to go in the Chrome tab. All right, here it goes, guys. All right. I'm going to hit slow on this, and I'm going to try to slow the footage down for you guys a little bit, so that way you guys can see a little better, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. All right, guys, here we go. So the first angle is going to be the wide angle. You can see that wide receiver is coming back in. Clear indication he's going to chip here. All right. You can see they have kind of a stretch play out there. Like I said, guys, they were in a two-back set. This is a big gainer. It's because the gap containment, they kind of ran the perfect play against it, and the gap containment wasn't the greatest here. All right. So the next angle we really want to see is we want to see that down line angle. We want to see what kind of front these guys are running. All right. So here we go. I see my zero shade. I see my 5-tech. I see my 3-tech. I see a joker. All right. Watch late in the screen. You're going to see a linebacker run in. If you know if that's the Sam or the Will, you'll know what kind of front this is. There you go. All right. We're going to see Bobby Wagner kind of get to eat up on a block here. And then KJ Wright just kind of lazily doesn't really get off his block there and engage correctly. But the defensive line also really did not play well in that play. All right. Did everybody see that? Did everybody see what was going on, guys? So,
my bad.
I'm going to tell you what I saw and how I identified it, right? So these kind of plays are tricky because there's no inline tight end. And we're basically going against we have a two-back set here because we have a fullback back there. So their fullback is Keith Smith, okay, number 40. We can see they come out in a two-back set, right? I'm looking at my nose tackle. I see my nose tackles to the right side, okay? I can see he's in a zero shade. And then off of him, I have a 5 technique, right? Off of that 5 technique, if we go to the left side, okay, I have a 3 technique from the left side, right? And then I have another guy that's kind of as a joker. It's a stand-up joker, right? And then I have 2 linebackers. One's clearly playing the A gap. One's clearly playing the B gap. And then I got another linebacker that's kind of off screen until the wide receiver comes crashing down to chip that 5 tech, right? Judging from what you saw there, would you call that an over or an under front?
You're asking me because I didn't see it. So I'm sorry. I apologize.
Didn't see it.
Yeah.
So I would call that an under front.
Okay.
The reason I would call it an under front is because I'm looking at where my 3 technique is in relation to into my the guy that's shading there, right? And then I'm looking at also like, okay, I have a joker. I have a stand-up joker. I have a 5 technique, and I can see that the Sam linebacker kind of goes away. And then he comes back into the play, right? So if he was in line, I would expect that Sam to be pretty much right up over that tight end or wide receiver, whatever, if they were in line to the formation, right? Or tight to the formation, even if you want to say like a wide receiver, like being tight to the formation. So if you look at the personnel, just look at the personnel that they're running, right? They have Puni Ford, right? An undersized nose in Seattle, okay? Then you take a look at who their Will linebacker is, the Will, KJ Wright. Who's their Mike? Bobby Wagner. And then who's their Sam? It's Bruce Irvin. Now, Bruce Irvin is currently a free agent, but let's just go back and let's talk about Bruce Irvin. Do you guys remember Bruce Irvin from college? He's a pass rusher. He was a defensive lineman at West Virginia. I think he led NCAA football in sacks the year that he went into the draft. I think he had like double-digit sacks that year. And if I remember all the hype around him.
Right.
Let's take a look at the Eagles, guys. What did the Eagles do with a lot of their defensive ends this year? They kind of converted them out to be linebackers. And I said, they're linebackers in name, but you know what I mean? So you look at Bruce Irvin. Who does Bruce Irvin remind you of anyone we just recently acquired?
Of anyone we just recently acquired, I would say probably that kid Jackson, that Tyron Jackson.
Okay, fair name to point out. I would say Ryan Kerrigan, but yes,
Okay.
Tyron Jackson. I think Tyron Jackson's more. I think you're thinking Patrick Johnson. I think you're
Patrick
thinking
Johnson. Yeah, you're right.
That's
You're right.
Dwayne. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I would say the person Ryan Kerrigan playing that role is what that would remind me of, right? A guy that was, you know, a defensive lineman that came into the pros and got converted out to a linebacker, 34 fronts mostly, but you know, he's got experience of playing that stand up over, you know, kind of positioning there. But yeah, I think Patrick Johnson fits the mold. I think Patrick Johnson could play two roles here, right? I could see him being utilized as a Sam linebacker. I could also see him on the backside as the stand-up joker.
Okay.
I could see that as well, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do, guys, is I want to bring up Kerrigan. Yes, MC East Beast, you got it, my guy.
Good call.
So we're going to talk about his gap assignments. We're going to talk about individual players within those assignments, guys, all right? So here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up – all right, guys, I'm going to bring this up again. I'm going to go back to my my editing software, and I'm going to share with you guys what I have here. So let me share screen. Share screen. Let's go to Windows. Wondershare Filmora. Let's share it. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and maximize the screen. All right, Foothills, can you see this?
I can see it now. Yes, I sure can. Yep.
Cool. All right. So this is an underfront, guys, right? So in an underfront, what do we have here, right? So I have, if you split this right down the middle where the center is, right? To my right side, I would call that the strong side or the closed side. All right. And to my left, I would call that the weak side or the back side. Okay. So let's look first, the nose tackle. The nose tackle will normally align. They can be, like Jalen was bringing up a point earlier about them being in a 2-eye. They can be in a 2-eye. That is possible to where they're just playing across the shoulder of the guard. They can be in a 2-eye, but generally speaking, they're going to be in a 0 shade or a 1 tech. Maybe sometimes you see them in a 0 tech, but it's normally going to be a 0. It's either going to be basically a 1 tech or a 0 shade, what they call a 0 shade. So tilted, right? That's that tilted. So that's the story I told you guys earlier when we talked about tilted front, and then we talked about Mean Joe Green and Bud Carson and Tony Dungy and all those guys using a tilted nose, right, with Mean Joe Green.
Yeah.
Then we have a 5 technique on the strong side, right? So on that close side, we have a 5 technique that would be out there over the right tackle, basically, right? And then outside of that 5 technique, we have the Sam. He would be about 1 to 2 yards off the line of scrimmage over that tight end that Sam would be, right? Yeah. Now let's go to the backside. You have a 3 technique that's over the left guard, okay? So he's going to be on the outside shoulder of the left guard, guys. And then on the other side of the weak side, you can have another 5 technique, so hands in the dirt. You can have a 7 technique, so got it lined it out a little bit, you know, a little bit further, so like right over where a tight end would be. Or you can have a 9 technique, which would be like outside of the tight end. Like he would be lined out, like you guys know what wide 9s are. Right. Now, speaking, most of the time you will see guys out this way on the weak side. There will be what's called a joker, meaning they're standing up, not hands in the dirt, okay? Doesn't mean they always are, but that's a common tactic you see there. Mostly because they're going to play the cutback lanes too, right? Now let's go to our linebackers. We already talked about the Sam. The Sam's going to have flat responsibilities. He's going to defend against like curls and hitches and stuff out there to the flats, guys. The Sam is. He's also going to really beat up that tight end if he can off the release. So then you have the Mike. So the Mike is actually going to have responsibility for the B gap because you have a nose tackle that's taking the A gap on the strong side. Then the Mike's going to take the B gap. Your 5 technique's going to take the C gap, and that Sam will have D gap responsibility here. Now, if we go to the weak side, the Will backer, he has A gap. The 3 tech has the B gap, and that 5, 7, and 9 tech has that C gap, okay? We have how many defenders in the box, guys? How many defenders you think are in the box, sir?
7.
7, right? 7. You could walk a safety down or corner down, a nickel corner, or even have a safety play over the top of a guy and bring a corner on a corner blitz or something. Like there's definitely different techniques you can play, but what I'm showing you right now is a very standard 7 in the box. Okay. So nothing fancy here, guys. This is the very basic kind of scheme when you look at a 43 under. Okay. This is with a tilted nose, a 43 under, but this is not really utilizing like gap assignments when you have twist and stunts, which is another thing I think will be coming to Philly. I think we will twist and stunt because the downside to playing a 43 under, guys, is if you tilt that nose, right, and you have that nose penetrating, man, there's no way of saying that doesn't sound wrong, but you guys get what I'm saying. If he's getting into the backfield, right, what you're going to do is you're going to run away. You're going to run away from him, right? You're going to move away from him.
He's cutting across the face of the guard, and he's really trying to attack the ear hole of the center and get and hit that A gap hard. You know, that he's really just trying to shed the block of that guard and really get through there.
Yes, exactly. So what you're going to have here is you're going to have that nose. So what they'll do is they'll start to move away from your nose. If that nose is winning and he's winning consistently, they'll start moving away from him, right? You'll see them do, kind of like counters. They'll run counters on you. They'll pull the guards and they'll block you off with the center. They'll just kind of seal you and they'll pull the guard. They'll do things like that, guys, to get outside on you. They'll just run away from it. So what you have to do to basically confuse the offensive blocking assignments is you have to stunt. That's kind of the modern iteration is to use stunts there. Okay. So let's just take a look at the Eagles personnel. Let's talk about the guys that have the importance in the positions, right? So like, I already see some of you guys kind of chiming in. And mind you, guys, I have no clue who's going to play where. Okay.
Right.
I have absolutely no clue who's going to play where. I can only make assumptions. I don't even know if they're going to really run a 43 under. It's just what it seems like from the press conferences from Gannon and things that he said, some of the personnel we've acquired and some of the personnel we have drafted. It seems that way, guys. That's what it seems like to me, guys. So the first thing you're going to look at here is who would be your tilted nose. And I will tell you, in an under front, you can two gap with your nose. It's not necessarily common to two gap with the nose, but you can two gap with the nose if you want. There are teams that will do that. I think Seattle did that like in the early 2010s. They two gap when they had what's that guy's name? Red Bryant or whatever, that big defense tackle used to have, guys. They used to two gap with them.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I don't think that's very common in an under fronts. Personally, I don't think you see a lot of two gap, but you can theoretically, you could still technically do it. Javon Hargrave already being a nose in a two gap system, sure. But I don't think that's what the Eagles are envisioning. But it's really hard to see it, right? Because the one we have here is Tui Pelotu. I don't know how you say his name, guys. The kid that came from USC.
Big T. Just call him Big T.
Yeah. Yep. He was our 6th round draft pick, guys. This is a guy that, if it wasn't for the back injury, he probably gets drafted a lot higher than the 6th round because, yes, he played against the Pac guys, and you always have to be suspicious of the Pac-12. You do. But, man, he dominated. There were very few nose tackles I ran film on from this past draft class that just understood how to beat a guy's hands. Like, he just embarrassed guys at the line of scrimmage, man. He would do this, the kind of reach and pull technique. I mean, he was just throwing centers to the ground, bro. It was pretty cool to see. Actually, I think he could be really good if he's healthy. I don't know the guy's health, though, man. I'm not in the business of trying to project health, guys. You get burnt too many times when you try to project a guy's health.
We're not doctors. We're definitely not doctors at all, so. Yeah,
exactly.
That's out of our realm.
Mm-hmm. The other guy I could think of that would make an interesting nose tackle in a 43 under, okay, would be Milton, okay? And the thing is that I don't know that the Eagles are going to use him constantly there, but there are teams that ran 275-pound nose tackles in the league before on an under front. Milton's about 280. He's 275 to 285-ish. It's about what his playing weight is. It makes sense. I mean, you could do it. His initial pass rush is certainly better than the secondary move. So putting him in a spot where he can use his initial pass rush to win would make a lot of sense. But I could also see a case being made for him playing a 5 technique or a 3 technique in a stunted front as well to use his athleticism to get around. The catch-all would be, you'd hope that, Tracy Rocker and that, Jonathan Gannon and his defensive coaching staff might consider using him as a nose, as a 3 and as a 5, right? Aaron Donald him, make him move around the line and create disruptions, right? Same thing with Fletcher Cox. Same thing with all these guys. Like, find the mismatch, find the guy that is struggling to line up against one particular player and make them commit to stopping that guy from beating that guy. I mean, that's what you should really do.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to start with the nose. And guys, the one thing that tips me off is if you remember the argument in the 3rd round over the Milton Williams pick, we all, I assumed, because that's what I heard too, is that the Eagles, they really wanted a corner. But actually,
Right.
Truth be told, they wanted a different nose tackle. They wanted to draft a nose tackle, and they wanted my guy from NC State to come in and play. But it didn't work out that way. There was an argument there. It just shows that the Eagles were very much concerned with getting a nose in this defensive front. That was certainly a priority going in there.
Yeah.
So much so that, you took Milton Williams, who's kind of a guy that can play a lot of alignments along the defensive line, right? And then in the 6th round, you turn around and you drafted Tui Pelotu, or Big T, as well. Like, you drafted 2 guys that, give you some. Now, Tui's a little bit more of a natural nose who can play a little 3 technique. I don't think you'll see Tui's not going to bounce outside as a 5, guys. He's not built like that. He's not athletic like that, I should really say. He's better inside. But certainly, we could see that there was a precedent set to get a nose tackle onto this football team. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have Javon here, who's played a 2 gap as a nose. So
when you say 2 gap as a nose, you're talking about having the B gap responsibility, basically, or is that you're talking he's having the responsibility of covering 2 gaps himself?
So basically, if he's 2 gapping, he's playing 2 gap responsibility. So if you're a nose, you're playing both of the A's. So you're playing the left and the right side of the A. So you're playing both sides of the center, basically.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So past him in an under front, if you're going from the strong side, guys. So we're going to the close side. So we have our nose tackle. Now we have a 5 technique. The 5 technique is probably going to have his hands in the dirt. So he's probably going to be in a 3-point stance, guys. He'll have his hands in the dirt, more than likely. I mean, you can alter it, guys. There's always alterations to everything. But generally speaking, hands in the dirt, 5 technique, 1 gapping. So the real question becomes, if he's in a 5 technique, he's got C gap responsibility. If that guy's in the 0, if he's a nose and he's in the 0, or he's in the 1 shade, or he's in a 2I, he's probably playing an A gap. Who has the B gap? Who has the B gap to the strong side?
To the strong side, that would be this. That would be the Will, right?
Not to the strong.
The Sam then?
No, not Sam. Sam's the D. Sam's outside the tight end.
Okay, I'm thinking. Yeah, I have it mirrored in my head. Okay, yeah. So then it would it's got to be the opposite side, right? Like you just said.
Yeah, you got it. It's the Mike. So
Yeah.
the middle linebacker, he's going to have that B gap responsibility. Okay, so you got your nose playing the A, your Mike's going to have the B gap, you got your 5 technique on the C, and then you got that Sam with the D gap responsibility, guys.
Right.
The Mike is generally speaking, and this is pretty similar for all types of fronts and defenses. Your Mike's going to make a lot of the calls out there. He's going to be kind of the general in the field. He'll be very much responsible for shifts and stuff and conveying and relaying messages. You could have a safety. I think Malcolm Jenkins has done it for us before. But generally speaking, it is a Mike. So now we go to the weak side. So on the weak side, because we're in an under front, you got a 3 technique, right? So you have a 3 technique, and then you have a guy that can be in a 5, a 7, or a 9. A lot of times we'll see that guy in a stand-up joker pass rushing kind of position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your 3 technique will have your B gap, right? He's going to play your B gap. So then you have a 5, 7, or 9 is going to play the cutoff lane. So that's going to put him in a C gap because there's no tight end there, right?
Right.
So who's covering your A gap on the weak side?
that's the nose, isn't it?
If you're two gapping, sure. But if you're in a one gap, who has it? So we know the Mike has the B gap on the strong side. We know the Sam has the D gap on the strong side. So who has the A gap on the weak side?
The Will.
The Will. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now your Will linebacker, guys, has that A gap responsibility on the weak side, right? So the back side. Your 3 technique has the B, and then your 5, 7, or 9, the Joker, who's generally speaking probably going to be standing up. He's got the outside cutoff lane. Guys, you can walk a safety down, a corner down. You can do a lot of things because teams can go 2 tight ends on you. They can go 2 inline tight ends on you and have a balanced front. So then you're going to have to walk somebody down the play because you're going to be, remember, in the defense, you always want to be +1 in the running game. If you're even or down 1, you're in trouble in the running game, right? That's kind of the issue.
Yeah.
So
do you see the Eagles this year utilizing Jacoby Stevens in that aspect? Having him. Do you see him getting some play time this year and having him, in that, creeping down into the box type of role? Playing that more of that hybrid linebacker. Do you see them getting?
He would have, if he's strong enough and run support. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like there's hallmarks to it. But he's got to show the strength to get there. And you're leading me right into it, which is, guys, I'll show you that screenshot one more time so that way you guys can see it and just kind of remember where these guys are and their gap responsibilities. So that way we all have kind of an idea of what we're talking about. We're all on the same page here as we go forward. Sorry, guys, hang on. In order to do that, apparently I have to go in here. And then I have to go. I hate how StreamYard does this sometimes, man. Sometimes StreamYard does too much. It makes you do these little things. You got to jump through hoops, guys, to share a screen. All right. So now we'll go back here. I'll share it one more time, guys. So I'm going to maximize it. All right. So everybody can see, right? Nose tackle, right? So on the right side, go from your center to the right, guys. Nose tackle has the A gap. Okay. So A gap, nose tackle, right? Your Mike, the Mike has the B gap. That Mike's coming to the B gap. Your 5 technique has the C gap. The Sam has the D. Now we're going to go weak side or back side, containment side, right? So we have C, we have the center right here, right? So A gap, the Will linebacker plays the A gap. Okay, the B gap, 3 technique has the B gap, and then the back side or the C gap is your 5, 7, or 9 tech, depending on the way they're playing them, right? Has everyone got that now? Everybody's kind of with me on this?
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about who might play where, guys. So we got an answer to one thing. I don't know if anyone caught the Jonathan Gannon press conference, right? I think it was like a little over a month ago now, but he was asked directly about what his plans were and why he wanted to bring in a certain player. And you guys know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Foothills?
Are you talking about Eric Wilson?
Eric Wilson, right. Very good. And he said Eric Wilson is going to play some Mike, but mostly the Will, right? He said he's probably going to use him as a Will.
Yeah.
So if he's going to play the Will, you have to understand the alignment of a Will. So what does a Will do in this system? Well, a Will has to be, generally speaking, they need to be very fast flow. So a lot of times they're a little undersized and they're fast guys. Oftentimes, what you'll see in a 43 under is the Will have a lot of tackles. He's going to get a lot of tackles because he's going to play a lot of A gap. So he's going to get tackles. He's going to have opportunities to make tackles here, right? So we have our answer to like what we're going to do at the Will linebacker position with Wilson playing that role, right?
Yep.
Now I think we get to the first question and the thing that we probably can get a little argumentative about with in the comments, and everybody can kind of chime in and say what they think. Who's the Mike? Who is the Mike?
Yeah, because
single Nate Gary in there.
In the comments. I mean, I don't remember the as far as like Singleton last year. Did he play some Mike, or was he more of a Sam?
More of a Sam.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
He played some Mike. I mean, he's not without experience there.
Right. And they were moving guys around last year and stuff too. So yeah.
Mhm.
So he's probably definitely going to be our Sam. Yeah. So like you said, who's going to be our Mike?
So I think it's between two people, unless they kind of change it up, which they could. I mean, it's very possible that they change this all up, guys, and people end up being aligned differently than what I'm thinking right now.
Right.
But I see two guys. The first one is in a base formation, 43 base. TJ Edwards. I think TJ Edwards would probably be your Mike if he makes the roster, and I don't think that's a guarantee, but I think he's a good football player, and I think he's turned out to be a lot better than what a lot of people thought initially, right?
I agree.
So that leaves one more player, I think, that could compete at the Mike, right? Now, mind you, in base packages, you'll probably see like an Alex Singleton and I'm sorry, not base. I'm sorry, guys. In sub package, you'll probably see like Alex Singleton and like, Wilson, Eric. They'll be the guys on the field. But Sean Bradley could get reps there too. Sean Bradley's the next guy I think that feels like a Mike to me. He feels like a natural Mike. I also think Sean Bradley could potentially play the Will position too, but I definitely feel like he's a bit of a Mike to me.
He's more of an inside.
I mean, those are two guys I see as Mikes.
Gotcha.
Right. Guys in the comments section, you can chime in, man. Where do you guys think? That's funny. Jalen said, Ryan. Me wrong.
I know. I've seen that.
+1 of the strength. Very good, Jalen. You got it, buddy. I would kind of expect an offensive lineman to know that, though. So I would say the Sam, this is where I think you can get controversial because I think Ryan Kerrigan makes a ton of sense as a Sam backer and a 43 under. Okay. I think it makes a ton of sense, right? But Jernard Avery fits that billing, right? Patrick Johnson fits that billing. Joe Osman, if he's still on the roster. Let me make sure Joe Osman's still on the roster, guys. I think he is.
I'm pretty sure he is too.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, I haven't really looked in a while, so he might not be. Let me just triple check. Yeah, Joe Osman's still on the roster. All right, so Joe Osman would fit that bill, right? So Ryan Kerrigan and Jernard Avery, a Patrick Johnson, and Joe Osman. Those guys to me make sense as Sams, right? And then, of course, obviously we got one guy I haven't mentioned here that is Alex Singleton, right? So Alex Singleton makes sense, playing that role as well, okay? You got Alex Singleton, Sean Bradley, TJ Edwards. You have Wilson, Eric Wilson. The one I don't know what they're going to do, but I can tell you where I think he makes a ton of sense is alongside of Eric Wilson is Davion Taylor at the Will, right? So your Will being like Eric Wilson and Davion Taylor, your Mike being like Sean Bradley and TJ Edwards, and then your Sam guys being like Ryan Kerrigan and Alex Singleton and Jernard Avery and Patrick Johnson, Joe Osman. Obviously, guys, not every one of these guys are going to make the roster. That's just the facts of the way numbers work. You know what I mean? Like, we'll probably keep 5, 6 linebackers. I'm going to say 6 because linebackers play a lot of special teams roles. And with us going more, there was a decline from the linebacker position because of the sub packages. But with these type of formations where you can basically take a rush defensive end or a rush linebacker or defensive end and kind of make them hybrids like a Ryan Kerrigan, a Patrick Johnson, a Jernard Avery, those types, it kind of gives you some leadway to say that a defensive end is a linebacker and keep 6. It's really what it does. So let's get into it, man. Let me name the names. So we got Eric Wilson. We have Davion Taylor. We have Sean Bradley. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get around this mic. Sean Bradley, TJ Edwards, Ryan Kerrigan, Alex Singleton, Jernard Avery, Patrick Johnson, Joe Osman. So I have 9 guys I can think off the top of my head that are probably competing for spots here. All right. And then actually, I'm already forgetting somebody who I think would probably, I don't know if they would play him at the Sam or the Will guys, to be quite honest. I could see him playing both sides here. I mean, he's a little undersized, so I don't know. He's played as a safety. It's really hard. It's really hard to say where they're going to play some of these guys, just because, they're doing conversions. They're converting guys to positions, and that's never really easy to predict when you have a guy that's being converted from being one thing into another guy's. But I can't think of the young man's name. The young man from LSU.
Jacoby Stevens.
Yeah, Jacoby Stevens. So 10 with Jacoby Stevens, right?
And
Jacoby Stevens, and I'll just say that we'll just say Jacoby Stevens at let's just say the will. Okay.
And definitely I feel that JG had, his say on drafting him, because he's just another one of the pieces that you could move around. He like you said, he played a lot of safety in college, but he can come down in the box, and I think he's more of that. I think he's definitely, his forte is more of that run stop and safety ability,
Yeah. So, there's a few things that, what's up, Dave? My guy, Dave Dust. So there's a few things to consider, guys. Number one, Kerrigan on a 1-year deal, right?
Eric Wilson on a 1-year deal.
So Davion Taylor's a draft pick from last year. I think TJ Edwards only has 1 year left. So you got Wilson, Edwards, and Kerrigan, who are really on 1-year deals. I think Singleton is either on a 1 or 2 year deal. I think he's still on a 1 year. I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So you have to consider the depth and the youth and how you fit guys, in here. So that's part of the equation here. But as I look at this, I see, I'm going to call Jacoby Stevens a will for now, guys. We can have that argument towards the end of the video if you guys want to. I don't know what to really classify him yet until I see him on the field. I can see a case for him being a Sam, but undersized, quick guy that can kind of be physical. I can see a case of saying, well, he's a safety, man. He could definitely play the flats and stuff too. So maybe you see him as a Sam. I don't know. But the first thing you have to do is you have to look at this and say, can you get a guy like Jacoby Stevens on the practice squad? I don't know. Probably. You got to remember, guys, if someone claims a guy at the end of the year, like at the end of cuts, they have to put that guy on their active roster. That's the thing about claiming them. So you can't just claim anybody. If you claim them, you got to go to your active roster, right? So maybe Jacoby Stevens is the guy you could fit through. I don't think you will get – maybe you could get Davion Taylor through. I doubt it. I highly doubt I feel like somebody might actually claim him. But maybe somebody would wait and see if they could. I don't know. There's different ways of doing it, guys. TJ Edwards. I don't think he qualifies for the practice squad, but he could potentially be a cut. Sean Bradley, they could try to sneak him through the practice squad. Not, maybe he does make it. He was only a 6th-round valuation last year. Maybe he would make it through to the practice squad. But I think you're playing dangerous games with the young guys that are probably going to be around here longer, exposing them to potential claims.
Steve, have they announced?
Kerrigan's going to be on the roster.
Have they announced how many people extra, how many extra heads we're going to have on the rosters this year?
I haven't heard anything official yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah.
So the only two that I have as clearly cut going to be on the roster are Eric Wilson and Ryan Kerrigan. Okay. I think Alex Singleton and TJ Edwards have fighting chances just because they've got experience playing. Alex Singleton, for a very small duration of time last year, he looked good. I will say that his underlying data wasn't as good as what I thought it was, to be quite honest. But maybe it's because we were just so bad there that he just looked, we got anyone that's competent. They just look like, they look like they're good ball players.
I think that defense got worn down a lot, especially towards the end of last year. Just having to be out there so much. The offense wasn't doing anything. So if that offense ain't sustaining drives, your defense is gonna be working. That's for sure. Overworking.
Ooh, man, that's a tough question. Eagles Uncensored. So, Gate, who has the better upside, Bradley or Taylor? I don't know. So here's the thing. Davion Taylor is the better athlete. Hands down, he's a far better athlete. Davion Taylor also, though, has a far greater development that lies in front of him than Sean Bradley. So if you talk about upside, upside is it's so projection based, but I think most people would say Davion Taylor has the higher upside. Sean Bradley seemed like legit last year. To me, Sean Bradley looked like he belonged on an NFL field. That's what I noticed. He's a little bit more athletically gifted to TJ Edwards. maybe not quite as good as a run supporter as TJ Edwards is. I mean, TJ Edwards is really good in run support, guys. I won't ever take that away from TJ Edwards.
Right.
But Sean Bradley did look good in his games, man. I thought that he looked like he belonged on an NFL field. I don't know if that means he's a starter per se, or just kind of a back end of the roster type guy that you can depend upon. I'm not really sure yet. It's really hard to tell in these young guys right now, but
right.
The Eagles aren't looking to put a lot of money in.
Right.
But I mean, you guys, if you think about it,
I was going to say, if you're going to ask me, which one of those two who I'd pick as my Mike, I would definitely take TJ Edwards over Bradley. That's for sure. I think he's definitely better in the run support, like you said, and just he has more experience at this point.
Yeah. And they're both young. That's the good part about it. They're both very young.
Like you said, I think TJ Edwards has been a bit, over criticized at times. So I think I definitely think he's a little better than people give him credit for.
See, my fear is that Ryan Kerrigan is going okay, I'm going to say Ryan Kerrigan will maintain his positioning as a defensive end that will play we will see him in some under fronts line up as a Sam. But I do think that they're going to primarily bring him in as a defensive end so he won't count against the linebackers. I don't know that to be factual, guys. It's just what I'm going to say, okay? All right. So I'm going to say Eric Wilson is clearly in. All right. I'm going to say Davion Taylor. He'd have to be pretty bad. I'm not going to say it's a lock to make the roster, but Davion Taylor being a third-round pick from just a year ago, he'd have to be particularly bad to be cut this year. It's happened before, guys. I would not dare say that guys aren't good. Like, it can't happen. It can happen, but it's fairly rare. So I'm going to say Davion Taylor is there. I'm going to come back to the Mike positioning, man, because the Sean Bradley, TJ Edwards thing is interesting to me. And I don't know that there's a clear cut. You can just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to come down and I'm going to take a look and say Alex Singleton probably makes this roster, right? So I got Eric Wilson, Davion Taylor, Alex Singleton so far on the roster. That leaves us with guys like Jannard Avery, Patrick Johnson, Joe Osman, right? So Jannard Avery, Patrick Johnson, Joe Osman all kind of play similar roles, right? They're all kind of similar. Jannard Avery kind of had one flash against San Francisco last year to where he looked really, really good. But for the most part, he's been out of place as a defensive end. And now he's converted as a linebacker. I'm going to say that it doesn't mean Jannard Avery's off the roster, but I do think that he's fighting to make the roster, right? So I'm going to say that Patrick Johnson probably is on the roster. So I got Eric Wilson, Davion Taylor, Alex Singleton, and Patrick Johnson so far on the roster. Now it gets to the interesting part, man. What do you do with Jacoby Stevens? What do you do with TJ Edwards? And what do you do with Sean Bradley? That's the interesting part, man. I don't know. I'm going to say that Sean Bradley, gosh, he's a 6th-round pick, though, man.
But are the Eagles listing Jacoby as a linebacker? But they're listing him as a safety, right? Right now?
I think he's listed as a linebacker, actually.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they can change it. We're not even in camp yet. They can absolutely change it.
Yeah.
But right now, let me take a look. Just make sure I'm correct on that. Jacoby Stevens is listed as a linebacker on the depth chart on the roster.
Okay.
So I'm going to say TJ Edwards right now is 5. Okay. So I got Eric Wilson, Davion Taylor, TJ Edwards, Alex Singleton, Patrick Johnson. I think they're going to keep 6 linebackers. Boy, the Jacoby Stevens, Sean Bradley thing is interesting to me.
That may come down to especially this year of who can play special teams better. Who's going to give that better effort on kickoff coverages, on kickoff returns, things like that. Who's willing to bust their ass and really get down and dirty in those those extra effort type of things.
Yeah, so I got, man, when you really look at this, you got Sean Bradley, TJ Edwards, Jannard Avery, and Jacoby Stevens kind of susceptible, right? None of these guys are high draft picks. I mean, to be fair, TJ Edwards was an undrafted rookie free agent. Sean Bradley was a 6th-round pick. Patrick Johnson was a 6th-round pick, right? And or was he a 7th-round pick, actually? somewhere in that area, guys. Late 6th, early 7th, I guess, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And Jacoby Stevens was a 6th-round pick, right? Or was he 7th? I think he was a 6th, right?
5th or 6th. I think it must
Jacoby
have been.
Stevens.
Yeah.
So
5th or 6th.
none of these guys are locks. That's the thing, right? Man, this is tough, man.
Yeah, I know. It's the type of thing that, that, and we're just doing it for fun. Imagine how the coaches feel.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say new regime. Let me make some alterations, guys. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Eric Wilson. Okay. Davion Taylor, just because of his ranking and positioning. I'm going to say TJ. You know what? I'm going to go Sean Bradley. This is going to probably shock some people, but I'm going to go Sean Bradley. I'm going to go Alex Singleton. I'm going to go Jacoby Stevens.
Okay.
And I'm going to go Patrick Johnson. Let me just say this right from the jump, guys. I like TJ Edwards a lot. I was a doubter on TJ Edwards his rookie season, and he converted me into a believer. But TJ Edwards needs to be in a system like Green Bay. He needs to be in the Giants system. He needs to be in a system where you need that physical downhill impact run stopping linebacker. I just don't know that's Philly. And I really like TJ Edwards because I really do think he's in, out of all the guys that we've drafted and signed as undrafted rookie free agents at linebacker, he's really one of the only ones that actually proved to be worth his medal. I mean, we can make the argument that Alex Singleton is starting to look like that, but, so I'm going to say Eric Wilson, Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley, Alex Singleton, Jacoby Stevens, Patrick Johnson. In the comments, guys, where are you guys at? So while we get some comments in,
let us know.
Where are you at with this? Do you have any, where do you differ or where do you agree? Where are you at with the linebackers?
Yeah, it's going to be a real tough call. Definitely. I think.
So who do you have? Who do you have, Foothills?
I think I'm pretty close with you. I think guys like Jannard Avery, Sean Bradley, they possibly could be on the on the outside looking in. I think Patrick Johnson has a really good chance of making this team, like you said. Even though he wasn't a super high draft pick or anything like that, but I think Coach Rocker is going to be able to get something out of this kid. And I think you're right when you were talking about Kerrigan. I think he's going to be more of that. I think he's going to be definitely playing more snaps at defensive end. And so I think my starting three, as if I was picking my starting linebackers, I think I would go with Eric Wilson at the will. Mm-hmm. I would go with TJ Edwards at my mic, and I think it would be probably just chalk it up to experience. I'd probably let Alex Singleton at least start the season out as my Sam, and then go from there. But I think those would be my base three, and it's going to be really tough to. It'd be really, really tough right now to cut somebody. I think all these guys are definitely contributors. It just depends on, like you said, what system they would be better in, and I don't know. I think Jannard. I don't know if Avery's going to make this team.
He'd have to. I mean, I think the roles here for him, like I said, in a 43 under as a Sam, I think the roles here, he's got to go. He's got to go take the job, and they got Patrick Johnson here. Joe Osman is a guy that's been around forever. They could see. I don't know. I don't think Joe Osman's going to make it. I think he missed his moment in the sun here, unfortunately. Yeah. Ryan Kerrigan can play the role. You know what I mean? Like, you can move Ryan Kerrigan out there if you really need to. I mean, it's just tough, man. The Sam positioning is tough just because Jacoby Stevens could technically play it. I mean,
that's true.
It's a difficult situation here. That's a difficult one to project, man.
Yeah.
So we got Eagles Uncensored said TJ, Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton. He said Taylor. So Bradley, or I'm sorry, Taylor. Whoa, you went with a big surprise. Hang on. TJ Edwards, Eric Wilson. All right, he went with Alex Singleton, Davion Taylor. Then he went with Sean Bradley, and then he went with Jacoby Stevens. I'm assuming you have Patrick Johnson on the practice squad, Eagles Uncensored.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, you can't just. I don't see them cutting a draft pick.
So my guy Dave Duss has TJ. He's got TJ Edwards, Alex Singleton, and Eric Wilson probably as the base package guys, and then Bradley and Taylor. So kind of sticking close to what we had last year with just bringing in Eric Wilson pretty much. So kind of plug and play.
Yeah, I like that 5. And then if you're going to go 6, if we keep 6, then I would go Jacoby. Have that extra Sam, like you're saying, he could play on the outside. So yeah, that would probably be my 6 right there.
So Jalen said Jacoby goes to practice squad. So he's got Jacoby Stevens going to the practice squad. I think you may use Edwards as a player for player chip if he doesn't fit us. Possibly. But I'd rather have TJ stay over. He's a great run defender, man. He really is. He's a great run defender.
Jacoby might make make the 53 or whatever it is when they announce it, just for the fact of his, he's got that safety athleticism too. And he's might be able to contribute on special teams. I don't know if he played any of that in college, but I wouldn't don't count him out either. Definitely.
So Ref Taco has a starting 3 of Wilson, Singleton, and Bradley. So he's got Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, and then he's got Sean Bradley as the starters. And he's got Taylor and TJ Edwards switching out and Jernard Avery. So he's got TJ Edwards and kind of Davion Taylor being used as like 4th and 5th linebackers type. And he's got Jernard Avery kind of playing that Sam linebacker, rush linebacker role in that 43 under type front thing. So interesting 6. I mean, your 6 is fairly close to mine, but you put TJ Edwards on the roster where I said that I now regrettingly have taken him off. And then you put Jernard Avery on the roster. And then you took off Jacoby Stevens and Patrick Johnson.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what Jernard Avery can do moving back to that more natural linebacker position, like you were saying. So I'll definitely be watching him in training camp and in the preseason, things like that. Hopefully he can be able to step up and give us another valuable at the linebacker position.
I got you, Ref Taco. So Sam, it's just strong side linebacker. It's just a strong side linebacker, guys. So he's to the close side of the formation, the side with the tight end, basically. A lot of times they're used as rush linebackers. Other times they're used for run support, right? The best example I can give you, and I don't know, I don't think that they ran an under front. That's not what I'm saying, guys. I'm just saying body type style. Chris Gokong. Guys remember Chris Gokong? 6'2", 6'3", 255 guy back in the day. You guys, I don't know if you guys remember him, but that kind of role again.
Cracking skulls.
Yeah. Okay, I got you, Ref Taco. So Ref Taco said he has Jacoby Stevens making the roster. So I'm suspecting you have them converting him back to safety in camp, and then you have Patrick Johnson going to the practice squad.
Okay, doesn't sound too unreasonable.
So Jalen thinks that Patrick Johnson will be counted in with the defensive ends more than the linebacker. So they have him officially listed as a linebacker. But I don't know what kind of mathematics they're going to play, Jalen. I have no clue. I have no clue the mathematical games they're going to play come roster. I also don't know if we're going to be a standard 53 because they added an extra game. They might have to make, part of the capitulation to getting the extra game might have been adding roster spots. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see how that works out. So we might not be with a traditional 53-man roster either. We have to kind of wait to see how that one works. I really don't know the numbers yet.
I think it's going to be probably 55 to 60. I think it's going to be right around there.
Thank you, Eagles Uncensored. We appreciate you, buddy.
Make sure you hit that thumbs up before you leave, my partner in crime.
What's up, Joe? What's going on? We got Joe Castro in the building, Philly the podcast.
What up,
Jacoby
Joe?
only worked with the linebackers. I don't think they will move him back to safety. I'll say this. Right now, we haven't really done a ton of work. You know what I mean? We're talking about a very limited, work sample. We won't really know until they get into camp. But
if McLeod's still out and Kevon Wallace is struggling,
yeah, I could see.
Yeah,
because you got to keep in mind when we go big nickel, there's not a ton of difference between the Sam and the big nickel. Like there's really not a ton of difference there. But yeah, I could kind of get what you're saying, that they might not classify him as a safety.
Yeah,
that they might just use him kind of, in that Sam role guarding the flats. And although he's an insurance policy at safety, he may never be labeled as a safety. I get what you're saying. NFC is beast. I don't know, man. I heard some early rumors it was going to be a 60-man roster, but I never heard anything confirmed.
yeah,
I never heard any kind of like confirmation from the league about that. Just speculation, basically, I heard. All right, let's get into defensive ends, because defensive line. Let's just go defensive line in general, guys. I'm going to bring up the names of the guys here, and we'll just go. I guess I can go through them alphabetically, and we'll just kind of talk about, guys, this is how the Eagles have them listed. So keep in mind your Jannard Avery's, your Joe Osmond's, your Patrick Johnson's, guys like that, okay, because they could count towards yours. So Jannard Avery is still technically listed
as a defensive end.
The Eagles site as a defensive end, even though I thought I heard them say he's a linebacker. I don't know, though, guys. Okay, Jaquan Bailey is a defensive end. He was an undrafted rookie free agent. I believe he came from Iowa State. He was one of the Iowa schools. Very experienced.
Bailey, Iowa State, you're correct.
Yeah. Derek Barnett, 50-year option contract guy. You guys know Derek Barnett. You either love him, you hate him, or you're neutral to him. Well, I guess we don't need to go too far into that one. All right, we got Fletch. So Fletcher Cox, obviously defensive tackle. All right, guys. So I'm just going down, guys. This is not by preference. I'm just listing them alphabetically. Okay, just going over the alphabetical order of them. Right. So Brandon Graham. All right, we all know Brandon Graham, Philly legend at this point. Javon Hargrave. And I'll give you the total count and total number of guys they have listed here, right? So Willie Henry, one of the free agents we signed fairly recently. Willie Henry was.
Defensive tackle.
Yeah, defensive tackle, sorry. Thank you. Let's see. Keep going down, guys. So Tyron Jackson, Tulane. Love his film against BYU. 6th-round pick for us, I believe. A guy that I'm excited to see how he kind of works out in camp and stuff. Not a very good initial pass rush, but his secondary move was pretty good in college. I don't know how that's going to translate in the pros. There's always a learning curve, guys. You can never predict that, right? All right. Ryan Kerrigan. He's officially listed on the roster as a defensive end. We probably all suspect he's going to play some Sam linebacker here. I mean, Matt Leo, I'm going to write him in here, but I think we all know Matt Leo is not making it. Well, I'd say that, but who knows? He might come in and actually be impressive.
Right.
I guess you should never say anything definitively, huh? All right, T.Y. McGill, my guy from NC State. He's kind of been a back end of the roster, practice squad guy around the league for a while.
Yeah.
Joe Osman is technically listed as a defensive end. I'm just going to keep him at linebacker because they've already said some of these guys are linebackers. So I'll just kind of skip over him because they've already basically classified him as that.
You're probably getting close to Hassan Ridgeway. Yep.
So we got Hassan Ridgeway at defensive tackle, guys. All right, I'm just going down the line here, guys. So that way we don't miss anybody. We have Josh Sweat, defensive end.
Who I think
pretty familiar.
I think he's going to lead the team in sacks this year.
Bold prediction already.
Yep. Hot take.
All right, we got Big T, Marley Tui Pelotu. I think is how you say his name. Big T. He's a nose tackle, guys.
Run
All right, we have
stuffer.
Milton Williams. Milton Williams is technically listed as a defensive tackle on the current roster. I think he's going to probably be a guy that we see play a lot of 5 technique and 3 technique, and you might see him as a 0 here and there. But I'm just going to list them where they have them right now, guys, and we'll consider the fact that you can be flexible with some of these guys. Some of these players can have some flexibility in terms of their alignment. So, all right, guys, this is what we have listed with you guys. All right, here we go. You got Jannard. You know what? I'm going to scratch Jannard Avery because we already got him listed as a linebacker. And they already said he was going to play linebacker. It's ridiculous to double repeat on these guys. So Jaquan Bailey, okay, undrafted rookie free agent coming out of Iowa State. All right. Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Tyrone Jackson, Ryan Kerrigan, Matt Leo, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Willie Henry, T.Y. McGill, Hassan Ridgway, Marlon Tuipulotu, sorry, and then Milton Williams. I got 14 guys. 14 guys. And you can argue that you could, like Jalen was saying, they could find a way of fitting a guy like Patrick Johnson on the defensive end side of things. Generally speaking, you're going to keep at least 10 defensive linemen. It's a normal, right? I mean, you could see as few as 9. Generally speaking, you're going to keep 10. I'm going to go with 10 for the early part until I hear something different, right? Until I hear something different, I'm just going to say 10. You guys are free to adjust that to how you want it to adjust it, guys. So let me go over the guys that are going to make this unless there's a trade or something happens, right?
Yep.
Look, I know you guys don't like it, but Derek Barnett's on this roster. Brandon Graham's on this roster unless there's a trade. Ryan Kerrigan's on this roster. Josh Sweat is on this roster. That's 4 guys right there, okay? Yep. Fletcher Cox is on this roster. That's 5. Javon Hargrave's on this roster. That's 6. Milton Williams, because of his draft position, he's not going anywhere this season, guys. He is very safely on this roster. So I got 7 guys I think are locks for the roster, and I think there are other guys that have a clearer pathway to the roster than others. So I have, in the way I'm accounting for it, I have 3 open spots, right? And I think, 7 guys fighting for 3 spots. So right now I only have Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams essentially as defensive tackles guaranteed to be on the roster. We know we're going to carry at least 1 more, right?
Yeah.
We know we're going to carry at least 1 more. So it really comes down to Hassan Ridgway, Marlon Tuipulotu, and I don't know where Tui's health is right now, guys, but I think he's good enough to make the roster. I do. I'm going to say, me personally, guys, I'm going to say Hassan Ridgway. All right. I think he's got a fairly clear path here. T.Y. McGill is more of a practice squad back of the roster type guy. I'm not going to overly be concerned there. And look, I'm an NC State guy saying that about an NC State guy. Willie Henry, I don't know that much about. I think he had one really productive season in Baltimore, right? Something like that. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that Willie Henry is necessarily completely off this roster. Maybe he can beat out a guy like Hassan Ridgway, who's showed a lot of talent when he's in games, but he has not been healthy for the Eagles. Let's call a spade a spade. Health is a concern. So I can see Willie Henry, T.Y. McGill, and Hassan Ridgway really fighting for that 4th spot.
So would you say like a guy like maybe a kind of a underrated guy who the undrafted free agent that we got, the Jaquan Bailey, who destroyed the Iowa State sack record by I think 10 sacks or something like that. Do you see him making the practice squad then? Probably.
Potentially. I think he's a good practice squad candidate.
Yeah.
So now we have 4 defensive ends, and I know we're going to keep more than 4. Matt Leo is not going to make it. I feel fairly confident in saying that, guys. I mean, yes, there's always the element of gate. You should never say never. I get it. I'm going to say Tyron Jackson makes it as the 5th defensive end. I'm going to say Jaquan Bailey, unless he really, really stands out in camp. I'm going to say he's going to go to the practice squad. Right. I do think there's something there to develop with him. I do think that he was really productive in college, but he's not an explosive player. He's not a guy that really opens your eyes per se. You have to really get into his film deep and watch his technique.
And he's not a huge guy either. He kind of lacks a little bit of length and things like that as a defensive lineman. So yeah, he's got some definitely has some flaws to him as well.
Yeah. So this is what I got, guys. I got Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan, Josh Sweat, and Tyron Jackson right now as my defensive ends. All right. So now I got defensive tackles. I have Fletcher Cox. I have Javon Hargrave. I have Hassan Ridgeway. And I have Milton Williams. I have 9 guys. There's a lot of ways to approach this 10th position. You can take a guy like Willie Henry, right? So let's say that Marlon Tuipulotu isn't right. Back's still not right, needs some time to heal. Maybe they put him, he's one of these phantom IR guys at the end of camp. Potentially, maybe put him on the practice squad. A lot of ways around that. I don't think they want to lose him. I think they like him a lot. So I'm going to say kind of keep an eye there on that one. T.Y. McGill, I think, is a guy that you can always bring back if you need him. So I'm going to say not. The one I worry about is Willie Henry. Willie Henry could make sense to either beat out Hassan Ridgeway, and it'd be Fletcher, Javon, Willie Henry, Milton Williams, and then Marlon Tuipulotu. Or it could be Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargraves, Hassan Ridgeway, Milton Williams, and Willie Henry. And then you could put it like Marlon Tuipulotu on the practice squad. I can't project health. That's the problem. The other option here is to do what Jalen said earlier, which is Patrick Johnson can be kept as a linebacker, but you're really making him onto the roster. You're putting him onto the roster by being light on the defensive line because you can use him as a defensive end.
If needed. Yeah, right. Exactly. So Willie, what's his NFL experience? I'm not too familiar with him.
Willie Henry, I believe he played with Baltimore I want to say it was the Ravens he played for a little while.
Okay.
I'm going to look it up for you. Yeah, he played with the Ravens for a little while. I think he had like one partially productive season. Yeah, he had like his rookie season, he had like 3.5 sacks. And he had like 33 tackles. So, I mean, he had like one partially productive season.
Yeah.
Definitely nothing to make you say like he's a lock to make anyone's roster, but certainly a guy they're bringing in here to you know what I mean? To like kind of really push competition.
Yeah.
Man, I'm stalling, guys. I know I'm stalling, but this is a really hard decision on who to keep and put off some of these rosters because I'm really looking at it from the long term, perspective too, which is we don't have a ton of depth past this season, guys. Look. Derek Barnett's on the 5th-year option. Not a guarantee to be back next year. Brandon Graham is probably playing his last season in Philadelphia. Okay? Ryan Kerrigan's on a 1-year deal. Josh Sweat's on the last year of a rookie deal. That's 4 out of the 5 guys I have on the roster.
This could possibly be Fletcher Cox's last season in Philadelphia as well.
Fletcher Cox has an out. He has a potential out in his contract next year.
Exactly.
Javon Hargrave has a crazy contract. Hassan Ridgeway, I think he's on a 1 year. I think he's only got 1 year left. So I mean, like you got Milton Williams, you got Marlon Tuipulotu. Potentially Javon Hargrave could be a long-term piece. And then we have Tyron Jackson. Like the defensive line is a little concerning. I'm not gonna lie. Past this season, not this season, but past this year, this defensive line gets a little concerning.
It does.
All right, here we go. I'm going to say Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan, Josh Sweat, Tyron Jackson, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Hassan Ridgeway is going to be my 8. Milton Williams. Come on, bro. I'm going to go Marlon Tuipulotu. All right, that's my 10. So Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan, Josh Sweat, Tyron Jackson, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Hassan Ridgeway, Milton Williams, and Marlon Tuipulotu are my 10. That's the 10 I have up there. Do you have what's your list, man?
Mine's pretty much the same, but I'm going to switch out the last 2, and I'm going to put Willie Henry on the active roster and put Big T and I think Jaquan Bailey. I think both of them will make the practice squad.
Okay, so you got either Phantom IR for Tui or practice squad, and then you have Jaquan Bailey going on the practice squad to be developed. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're plugging in Willie Henry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So Jalen, I think Jalen's got his up. He's got Barnett, BG, Ryan, Sweat, 4 defensive ends. He's got Cox, Hargrave, Williams, and Ridgway, 4 defensive tackles. Ooh, defensive tackle Johnson. He's got Big T. He's got 9. I'm going to take a wild guess, Jalen, that you're utilizing the extra space on Patrick Johnson as a linebacker. A phantom, one of those linebacker defensive ends, right? Stand-up rush linebacker or joker defensive end.
To have that, that guy that could put his hand in the dirt or stand up and play as that stand-up linebacker.
Ref Taco says there are 5 defensive tackles: Milton, Cox, Hargrave, Henry, Ridgway. We can trade one. Henry can go for like a 4th. That's a realistic move.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get a 4th for Willie Henry, but I'll take it. You get me a 4th, Ref Taco, I'm gonna send you a free jersey. You get me a 4th for Willie Henry, you're getting a free jersey, my guy. I will buy you one. I will buy you the officially licensed game day one.
Ref Taco for GM. Ref Taco for GM.
Ref Taco for GM for sure if he gets that.
Right.
He is the greatest negotiator in NFL history off his very first move. That's my guy. I do agree. We could potentially do some back end of the roster trade stuff, player for player. You definitely could move a guy. I mean, I think that's possible. I also think you can look at a guy like Milton Williams and say that he's a defensive tackle, but he's also a defensive end. Like you can say that he's a versatile player, right? He's
Brandon Graham. You could move around too, right? I mean,
yeah, you could move him around.
Yep.
Yeah. I think you can look at it something like that as well.
Yeah.
I would like to see all 3 of the young guys find a way of making their way to the roster. So Tyron Jackson, Milton Williams, Patrick Johnson, they got them all kind of weirdly mixed up. So they got Tyron Jackson as a defensive end, a 5 tech. They got Milton Williams technically listed as a defensive tackle, and they got Patrick Johnson technically listed as a linebacker. So it seems like they're trying to come up with some stuff here.
Yeah, they're definitely not. They're wanting that. That's just these are guys that fit into what JG's looking for. You know, he wants guys that can, you know, be kind of those multiple use kind of guys. You know, those good chess pieces that he can move around.
So Jalen has trying to keep up with Jalen's like movement of the roster. So what he's got is okay. So Patrick Johnson is out there at linebacker, right? Sam, he's at Sam at 43 under, but he's a guy that can clearly play a joker stand-up defensive end. So he's got Patrick Johnson on the roster, but then he's got, I'm going to assume he's got Jaquan Bailey. He's got Tyrone Jackson going to the practice squad. And then he's got Marlon Tuipulotu and Milton Williams on the roster with Patrick Johnson. That's kind of how he did the accounting around it, guys.
Yeah, I see. Sneaky.
Yeah.
But smart.
It's tough to say. Yeah, Jalen, next year is going to be really interesting, man. I don't know what's going to happen exactly. Also, a lot of these guys have 3 to 5 tech versatility, so they need to Yes, that's what we were just saying, basically. This is the biggest group I have an issue with next year. Yeah, because there's a lot of uncertainty on who will be on the roster next year. Like I said, guys, I mean, Derek Barnett on a 5th-year option. Brandon Graham's likely done after this year. Ryan Kerrigan's on a 1-year deal. Josh Sweat's on the last year of a rookie deal. That's 4 of the 5 guys right there. I mean, that's a great proposition. Fletcher Cox has an out in his contract next year. Yep. Doesn't mean the Eagles are going to exercise that out, but they could. Javon Hargrave, we'll have to see what happens there, man. He's got a weird contract situation too. Hassan Ridgway, I believe, is on the last year of his deal. And then you got the young guys, Marlon Tuipulotu and Milton Williams. We'll see.
if Hargrave has a pretty good year this year, do you see the Eagles extending his contract? Because of the fact that, Cox is going to be definitely on the way out. Possibly this could be Cox's, last year, maybe second to last year. So, I mean, you think they would extend Hargrave if he has an above average year this year?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. I think that's a possibility. So Jalen says, why do you think Jackson will get on the roster? I have concerns about him winning an NFL rep. I think he outside of maybe Jaquan Bailey, he has the most NFL ready body right now. So I think his technique is pretty sound, Jalen. Personally, I think his technique's not bad at all. I just think that he doesn't have that initial burst in the first pass rush move. But his secondary move was pretty good. I also think that he's a guy that he makes a ton of sense as a fourth or really a fifth defensive end, because you're going to develop him. You're going to work on that initial pass rush move. And to be honest with you, he can give you reps in game situations such as run defense where you need someone to really lock the backside or something like that. Like, he can do that. Like, he's a pretty strong run defender. That's what I think his positives are. It's just a matter of, what's going on with the initial pass rush move. Is a physical limitation? Like, they got to figure out what's going on with the initial pass rush move. As I said, Tyron Jackson and Milton Williams have the opposite problem of one another. Milton Williams has a very good initial pass rush move, but he's very, very raw, and his secondary pass rush move is just bad. And then Tyron Jackson has a very slow initial pass rush move, but at least on his college film, man, he was really, really good on the second pass rush move. And, Tyron Jackson, you can say, we can all be a little skeptical of him playing at Coastal Carolina. I think that's fair. But when he played offensive lines that have NFL level talent on them, he won, and he won big time. If you watch what he did against BYU, which was a top 5 offensive line last year, he dominated that game. And there's probably 2 or 3 guys on that BYU line that's going into the NFL. I mean, now, are they going to be top line NFL tackles and guards? I don't know, Jalen. I mean, it's hard to project. I don't know that, but they're NFL level talent guys on that line that he beat.
Facts.
Yeah.
I think BYU had 3 guys get drafted off of that line. I'm pretty sure this year.
Ref Taco said, bro, I predicted Josh Rosen as a bust at 8 years old. Totally not by random chance. I should be the GM. Howie, a 45. He'll retire at 65. That's 20 years. I'll be qualified. He said, I'll only be 32 then. Yeah, it's tough, guys. I don't know how you get around, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you get around some of the issues. It's tough, guys. Like, I really don't know. It's a difficult proposition with the defensive line of figuring out what we do for the long-term future, guys. But we covered a lot tonight, guys. And we're going into about an hour and a half. I'm about to jump off here pretty soon, guys. But look, we talked about what an underfront is. We even talked about a little bit about 30 fronts. I'll introduce you guys to Okie versus an Eagle front. We talked about over versus odd. We went over gap assignments. I mean, we went over a lot of stuff, guys. We talked about the role and fit of these guys. Just be on the lookout for, pay attention to where they got guys playing in camp, in training camp, but also pay attention to that in games, guys. Watch the roles they're asking guys to play. And as soon as we get coverage, I'll be all over it for you guys. But I gotta have the film to do anything with it. Without the film, I'm a sitting duck. Without the film,
come on, preseason, let's go.
Making it as great a guess as I can make, So, I mean, we'll see. Like, once I see, like Kerrigan, maybe Kerrigan takes absolutely not one snap at a Sam linebacker. I mean, that'll tell us what they think about some of the guys they have at linebacker. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm interested to see if they're in an under front, who is the Sam linebacker. I'm very interested in seeing what they do there. If it's not Kerrigan, I'm curious who takes first team reps there. That would make me, yeah.
It's going to be
the obvious conclusion would probably be Alex Singleton, but
right.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. All right, guys. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate my guy coming on and talking with me, talking some football. Guys, I'm getting ready to go on vacation here pretty soon, but I'll try to, I'll work out some more stuff with Philly Foothills, and we'll try to occasionally bring you guys some stuff. We can talk offense. We can, we'll do some occasional stuff, and we talk a lot on Twitter, so he knows how to hit me up on Twitter and be like, hey man, what you doing this day? So we'll keep bringing you some live streams. We'll keep talking football, and you guys can pick my knowledge, and then I'll pick Jalen's knowledge in return. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all, man. I appreciate you, Dave. Ismael Rodriguez, man. I appreciate you stopping in. Jonathan, highly appreciate you, buddy. Ref Taco joining us tonight. Eagles Uncensored, man. I really appreciate you guys. Everybody that was commenting, NFC East Beast. I'm trying to get through all the names. My guy, Dave Dust. There's so many of y'all that were commenting, guys. I'm sorry. I know I'm missing a lot of y'all. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Philly, the podcast. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Or we're not quite to the weekend, but close enough. Have a great weekend, y'all. I'll keep trying to bring you guys those 1-2 minute videos, just the short clips giving you some information. But all right, y'all. Until next time, y'all. Peace. We're out of here.